has anyone seen Ash Ketchum? He left his Pikachu behind. Oh well. What's going on, guys? Animation Station here, and apparently I now have Ash's Pikachu. You're not gonna stay, are you? Okay. But, yep. Fitting I have Pikachu because we are doing the big one, the ranking of all 24 Pokemon movies from worst to best. I've already done reviews on all of them, so if you want my more specific thoughts about each one, you can go check out that video. But I'm going to put this down now before I drop it, because I do not want to hurt precious little Pikachu, or I'm going to get sued by Nintendo. So, but yeah, I've already done reviews on all 24 of these movies through 2 Pokemon months, so if you want my more specific thoughts on each one, that's not mostly spoiler-free, check all those reviews out with the Pokemon Month 1 and 2 playlists, which will be in the description. And as for this one, I'm going to go into spoilers a little bit more, and I'm going to be a little bit more critical and analytical, but I'm not going to go too in-depth with each one because I cannot edit a video that's more than an hour and a half long. So, with all that said, I'm Jack Small of Animation Station. I have this song because I'm trying to look like an explorer, even though I probably look like a dingus. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this started. This is all 24 Pokemon movies ranked from worst to best, in my personal opinion. Keep in mind, very casual Pokemon fan here, so your list is obviously going to be much more different than mine, and as long as you respect my opinion, I will respect your opinion. So, without further ado, let's get started. Starting off with number 24, the worst movie of all of these by a country mile, Hoopa and the Clash of Ages. This is a film that I knew was going to be bad because I've seen some reviews about it online, spoiler-free, mostly. So going into the movie, I knew it was going to be bad, but I did not know how bad it was truly going to be until I finally watched it. Bad writing, crap plot, one of the stupidest legendaries ever invented, and full of too many plot holes to even try to sum up in this one little summary. So all you need to know is this movie is crap, this movie is terrible, and even if you're a Pokemon fan, it is not worth your time. So yeah, screw this movie, let's move on. Next up at number 23 is a movie that, in terms of its actual quality, isn't bad, but it's more this far down because it's just outright unnecessary. And that is Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution. I have a pretty almost borderline unhealthy hatred for this because it's pointless. Why would you decide to remake the first Pokemon movie but use bottom barrel crap CGI? Like, why? Well, what's the point? And you can't give me the anniversary excuse like with a certain movie much higher up on this list. But my goodness, this was pointless, and the CGI is just, it's awful. Like, it is absolutely awful. And yes, I know it's not the first Pokemon movie to use CGI, but it's the first one to be full-on CGI, and it sucks. Because unlike DBS Superhero, they didn't use it to stylize. So, yeah, I'm sorry. If you enjoy Evolution, I respect your opinion, but me personally, I freaking hate it. I think it's pointless, and I think it makes the first movie worse just by its mere existence. Sounds harsh, but that's the reality of it. So that is number 23. And the only reason it's saved from being any lower is because it's still Pokemon the first movie. Do with that what you will. Moving on, next to number 22 is probably the one that disappointed me and angered me the most out of all of these first-time watches, and that is Arceus and the Jewel of Life. Now, I know this is a fan favorite because I saw a couple rankings online putting this around the middle to high tier, but I don't get it. This movie is a mess. Like, the writing is bad, the time travel is just unnecessary, and it's just so messy. And the writing is just abysmal. Like, some of the worst writing I've seen in any movie, period. Like, doing time travel in movies is very hard to do right because most of the time you cannot get the writing right for this kind of plot. And every now and then you get something like Back to the Future that's able to actually nail it while also being well written. This is not that. This is the complete and total opposite of that. And it's horrible writing with a time travel plot that is not fully fleshed out and awful new characters, and a villain that's literally just a ripoff of Jafar from Disney's Aladdin. Yeah, I have nothing more to say. This movie sucks. This movie was a huge disappointment. And I'm never watching it again. So, yeah. Horrible pile of crap. You stay here at number 22. Well, yeah, 22. Number 21 is Genesect and the Legend Awakened. This movie was a pain to sit through. Like, painful. This was another one that I thought would be pretty bad, but I decided to give it a chance anyway because, like, hey, it has Mewtwo. It's the first appearance of his Mega Evolution, and maybe it could be something cool. No. Mewtwo's character is completely massacred in this movie and just goes through the same stupid arc he did in the other movie. Like, why does Mewtwo act like him and Ash never met? Or her and Ash, whatever. How it and Ash have just never met. Why? They've already met like 3 or 4 times at this point, and you could probably throw out the argument, oh, it's probably a different Mewtwo. Why even have a different Mewtwo? The Mewtwo you had was perfectly fine. Is it just because you wanted to have a female voice for the character? You did that in Detective Pikachu, for flip's sake. Like, oh, goodness. I'm sorry, that part angers me. I literally couldn't do the whole review without getting unbelievably angry at that part. So, yeah, I'm sorry if me calling this movie or calling this Mewtwo crap offends you, but that's my opinion and I'm sticking to it. And Mewtwo's not the only problem here either. The writing is bad. Genesect is a very underdeveloped Pokemon with a decent design. And it's just Mewtwo going through the whole, oh, I hate humans thing again. Why are we retreading old ground instead of trying to do something new? Not to mention Ash and his friends have no point being in this plot whatsoever. Like, I could go on and on about why this movie sucks so bad. Like, just screw this movie. Moving on. The only reason it's higher up than some of the others is because the other ones are somehow worse. Okay, moving on. Number 20, Giratina and the Sky Warrior. This was another one I knew would be pretty bad, but I was still shocked by how bad it was. Like, you have freaking Giratina, one of the coolest Pokemon ever designed, and you have this reverse world and how Giratina can, like, drag its victims into this world to, murder them pretty much. And then you just completely crap all over it with an abysmal, annoying, agitating, aggravating, awful legendary. Shaymin. I hate Shaymin almost more than I hate Hoopa, I swear. He is so agitating, so annoying. It's supposed to be the grateful Pokemon, but instead just spends the whole movie being a complete turd to Ash. And at first it's funny, but then it just keeps going and going and going, and it's just like, stop! We get it! Stop retreading the same freaking crap! Do something else! And even when Shaymin has his transformed state into the Sky Warrior, it still doesn't work, because we don't like the character, and it's not at all satisfying. Giratina deserved a better movie. This is bottom barrel trash. Okay, only 2 more bad ones to go, I think. Yeah, only 2 more. Only 2 more crap ones to get through. Number 19 goes to what is by far the worst of the original movies, and that is Jirachi Wishmaker. If you saw my review in Pokemon Month 1 on this movie, you know how angered and severely disappointed I was with this movie. Like, you have a Pokemon that can literally make wishes come true. Like, there's so many possibilities you can do with that concept. And then you have this carnival, and you have the villain being this magician character. The problem is, the villain's not well fleshed out. You have Max as the main character, which is just an awful, stupid idea that should have been scrapped. Because Max is so frustrating and agitating. I hate him. And Jirachi himself is just not a compelling Pokemon. It's a cool design, of course. It's unique and cool, but it lacks depth and character and personality. And then, not to mention, tentacles and Pokemon. No thanks. And I get that this is somewhat of an homage to other anime movies, but then you have this weird Groudon hybrid tentacle monster thing as the final boss, and then you have the villain for no reason at all being, doing a complete heel turn, and then I just jump out like, no, I'm done. No, you've crossed the line. So yeah, this movie was just an agitating experience, and I was so disappointed, especially because of the movies that came before it that are way higher on this list. So yeah, you're not the worst, Jirachi, but you are trash. Moving on, number 18. And this, I swear to you, 18 is the last bad one. After this, we go on to the ones that are average to great, okay? Just want to make that clear. The last one I'm going to call bad at number 18 is Volcanion and the Mechanical Marvel. Look, this movie had some cool ideas. I like Volcanion. He's a really well-developed Pokemon that's really well-designed, and I like him and I'm invested in him. I like the Mechanical Marvel Pokemon itself. It's a cool design, but I feel like it kind of lacks a little bit in the personality. But here's the problem. Ash literally gets dragged into the plot by this stupid, band freaking thing. And then you have a villain. This villain is probably the worst one in the whole series. I hate this villain. I hate him so much. He's flat, he's generic, he's badly written, and his whole plot and plan make no sense. Why would you try to take over this one Pokemon and use this jewel as some kind of power when you literally can just Mega Evolve forcefully a bunch of other Pokemon? You could literally use that whole army and just take over the whole world like that, right there. But you have to overcomplicate things, and then you screw yourself. Why? Why would you do that? That is so dumb. Look, I know it's a Pokemon movie. Maybe I set my standards too high. Okay, I can understand that criticism, but I'm sorry. I expect more even from Pokemon, especially after how great these movies started out, as you're going to see higher on this list. Yeah, Volcanion, this is the last bad one of the bunch. From here on out, we're just moving on to average, okay? This is the last bad one. From here on out, these are ones that are average to decent in the bottom 12. So, yep, that one's bad. Moving on. Okay, I might get thrown into hot water for this one. Number 17 on the list is going to be Black and White. Victinian Zekrom or Victinian Reshiram. This was the one that disappointed me the most. Because I feel like they could have done a lot more with this concept. It's hard to explain. Let me start with my positives first. I love Victini. One of the most adorable, well-developed, super cute, and super cool Pokemon out of all of them. I think Zekrom and Reshiram are really well designed, and I love their back and forth kind of thing. And some of the battles in here are fine. What I don't like is how these two movies are literally the same with just a few things changed out. I don't like how the villain is so blatantly obvious, and even when it does happen, I'm still just sitting back in my chair groaning. I don't like how it took everything that's concept built it up to be and threw it in the toilet. I did not like this. It's saved from being any worse because it has some good aspects to it, but I would not call this movie any more than average at best. It had some very bad dialogue at times, had some very bad, cringy moments, but it has just enough good in it for me to call it passable. But that's it. Nothing more than passable. Now, if you're a fan of this movie and enjoy this stuff more than me, I understand. I can see why some of you can enjoy this far more than me. I just couldn't get into it. Plain and simple. Which is why it's in the bottom 12. Moving on. So let me check. 24, 23, 22, 16. Okay. Number 16 goes to Diancie and the Cocoon of Destruction. This is another movie that falls into the average category because it has some. This is another one with really cool concepts. I like Diancie as a Pokemon. I like it as a character, and how it's like this princess sort of Pokemon that has this sort of royalty to them. Like, I get that, and I understand that. But I don't know. Something about this movie just felt boring to me. Maybe like some other reviewers have said, it is sort of pointed at a more female demographic, maybe, but I honestly don't know, because some of these movies just blend together, so it's hard to remember each of them, so editing can correct me if I end up being wrong. And I just feel like this movie could have done more than what it did. Like, with this Cocoon Destruction. Not to mention, you have the awesome Pokemon from X and Y, and you just waste them. Like, Xerneas didn't even need to be awoken, and friggin' what was the deer's name? I forget. The deer is cool, but it does almost nothing throughout the whole movie. So yeah, this one was just boring at worst. It wasn't cringy, it wasn't horrible, but it's just boring. Moving on. So yeah, we're at 15. Okay. Number 15 goes to Ranger and the Temple of the Sea. This is a movie that I also expected more out of because this is one of the last ones with the original Pokemon cast and stuff like that. And it promised a lot. Like, I like how May gets the starting role this time, and I love her relationship with this Pokemon that hatches in her arms and thinks it's her mom. And their whole relationship throughout the movie is sweet. Jack is an awesome character. I love his adventurous personality. There's a reason why they made a whole game around him. And Ash is mostly okay here. He's in character, and he's still, the old school Ash that has a purpose somewhat. What this movie fell flat on for me was the overuse of CGI, the weird moment where they kind of become Super Saiyan, sort of. It's strange, it's bizarre. And I don't like in the final act how, even though this is May's movie, Ash is still the one to save the day. Like, why? This is Misty's movie. Why not have Misty be the one to go on and save the day with her Pokemon? Like, that just seems odd to me. I don't know why they did that, but it's weird. Not to mention the villain, as over the top and cool as he is, because I have a thing for pirates. He's flat and generic. Like, outside of being just over the top and zany, he doesn't really have much going for him. But this movie isn't bad. I mean, I wouldn't mind putting it on again, maybe during a whole binge watch of the whole series. Like, aside from the bottom 7 on this list, I wouldn't mind rewatching any of these, except for maybe Black and White, because that one teeters a bit between being average and below. Like, yeah. But Ranger and the Temple of the Sea, I can see why some people really like it, and I can definitely see some of its ideas were really cool. And again, I love that May gets to be the star here, and it's a much better version of what they tried to do in Jirachi. But I don't know. I feel like maybe they could have done more with it, and it just falls into the average category, unfortunately. Way better than Jirachi, though. I will watch this any day over that piece of garbage. So, yeah, Ranger and the Temple of the Sea, you're in the bottom 12, but you're not a bad film. Now for the final one, for the bottom 12. People are going to be mad at me for this, I know, but this is my list, so. Number 14, and the last one that falls below a 7 out of 10 on my scale, Number 14 is Rise of Darkrai. This is a fan favorite, I know. I'm sorry if this is one of those picks that seems pretentious or seems like I'm being too harsh. But keep this in mind. You're talking to someone who's a big fan of horror. And when you say that this is a Pokemon horror movie, you immediately have my attention. Darkrai is a cool character. I love his design. I love how he can move through shadows. Kind of like old school Nosferatu, with the way that his shadow just creeps around places. And it has this like really eerie, dark atmosphere. Like, those are the things that I love the most about this movie. When it actually tries to do horror elements, it mostly succeeds. And like I said in my review, this is decent. This is a movie that I did give a 6, that I was mostly somewhat positive on, but man was I disappointed. Now look, I understand. It's a movie mostly aimed at kids. They can't just like go full on horror with it. Like, you can't have limbs flying around or stuff like that. But I don't know. I felt like they could have done so much more with it. And then the ending battle, it's just pointless aside from setting up the next movie. Like, I like Pokey and Dialga, and I like this whole fight in this whole alternate reality that's literally disintegrating while they fight, kind of like Beerus and Champa in Dragon Ball Super. Whenever they try to fight each other, like, everything around them starts just disintegrating. But at the same time, the ending feels rushed, the writing isn't strong enough to carry this kind of plot, and a lot of potential just feels like it was thrown to the side. Not to mention, again, Ash and his gang in this movie are pretty much entirely pointless. So, yeah, that's a controversial statement, I know. But to me, Rise of Darkrai is a decent movie, and it's the last of the bottom 12, but I don't know. I expected more, and maybe that was my own mistake. But when you say Pokemon horror, you have my full intention, and I expect more. So yeah, that's just how I feel about it. But that's it for the bottom 12 movies. And like I said, the only ones that are outright unwatchable are the bottom 7. Outside of that, these are all watchable to amazing. So please put down your pitchforks. From here on out, we're going to be positive, okay? So let's start with the upper 7 as we get closer and closer into our top 10. So, moving on, number 13, the first movie I can actually call good out of this ranking, and one that got me in some pretty hot water when I discussed this movie online with some people. Number 13 is Detective Pikachu. This is a film that, on first watch, I absolutely hated it. When it first came out, I thought it was overrated. I thought it was stupid. It just wasn't for me. And then during this marathon, I gave it a second watch, and I started to more appreciate what it was trying to go for. Yes, in my opinion, this movie's CGI is absolutely butt ugly. Like, I'm sorry, I hate this movie's CGI so much. It is so bad. And yes, the human characters are really bad, and the writing is nothing more than decent, and the villain is just horrendous. But it's made up for in a few things. One, it's world building. That's by far the best part of the movie. The way it creates this world where you can have the humans and Pokemon side by side, and neither one is freaked out by the other. Like, they do a great job explaining that, they do a great job setting it up, and it's really well fleshed out. Like, I love the world building and the variety of settings. That's by far its strongest point. The acting is mostly fine. It's a movie that isn't like trying to go for an Oscar or anything like that. I don't expect that out of this kind of movie, but I don't know. I feel like the acting is nothing more than just okay. Like, it's fine, it's passable, it works. And it's not all the actors' fault, because like I said, the writing is nothing more than just meh. So it's not really their fault, because they don't have great material to work with. But at the same time, I feel like maybe they could have brought a little bit more expressiveness to their role. I like Justice Smith's character perfectly fine. Like I said, he is the flat, generic, token character you have in these live-action remakes, but he's fine. I didn't hate him. But then there's the female character, and no, don't you dare throw sexist comments at me. She was cringy. She was over the top, she was cheesy. It just didn't work or fit the vibe of the movie. And then, of course, there's Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu himself, which at first I thought, like, Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu? How the heck is that going to work? And then I watched it, and I'm like, oh, okay, very interesting story you're going for here. Like, Ryan Reynolds is really good as Pikachu. Like, I like his performance as Pikachu. He does a great job with the emotion. He does a great job with the scenes that he needs to be emotional. And sometimes he can just sound outright BA. I'm not going to say the real word because this is Animation Station. I try not to curse here. Unless your name is Hoopa, then I will gladly throw F-bombs your way any day of the week. Yeah, this is a movie that I do think is very overrated. And if you ask me why, well, it's because a certain little other thing exists. This, in my opinion, is the gold standard for these video game live-action remakes. Like, I watch this all the time. I love this movie. I will defend it constantly, except for the needless ad placement, which was just obnoxious. But I don't know. I feel like Sonic did everything way better than Detective Pikachu. Like, that's just my opinion, and there is a lot of favoritism because, again, you're talking from the perspective of a very casual Pokemon fan, but a very die-hard Sonic fan. I mean, just look back there. You see the collection. You see my favoritism. So, don't take this too seriously. But the point is, this is still a pretty good movie. I'm still mostly pretty positive on it. I have turned around on a second viewing. And who knows, maybe on a third viewing I'll finally be able to call it great like most of you do. I mean, heck, I bought the DVD. I only do this for movies that I think is actually worth buying. So, yeah. If I think it's good enough to buy, then I think it's good enough for you to give a watch. If you're not a fan of Pokemon, it's more of a one and done kind of thing. But if you are a fan of Pokemon, you're going to enjoy it. And there is a litany of references and a nice variety of Pokemon. So, yeah. Bit of a scatterbrained fool thing, I know, but I did a better job explaining it in my actual review, so go watch that. But, yeah. It falls into the upper 7. It is a good movie. I did give it a 7. I was mostly positive on it. And I have come around on it in a second viewing. And like I said, maybe in a third viewing, I'll finally see that great, amazing movie that you guys all praise so much online. But me, I see a very good movie that's extremely overrated. Just me. So moving on now. That's Detective Pikachu number 13. Moving on to number 12. I might get into a little bit of hot water for this one. Number 12 is Pokemon 2000, The Power of One. Yes, I know, I have a lot of favoritism for the old school Pokemon, but something about this movie just didn't quite work. Like, it's very good. I still think it's a very good movie, but it has one big problem. The villain is garbage. Like, oh, the villain is so bad in this movie. I hate him. What is his name? Lawrence the Third, I think, and he just wants to capture Pokemon just because, and then tries to teach us it's a bad thing, even though the catchphrase has got to catch them all. Like, it's sending mixed messages and confusing me. But it has great 2D animation. It's still mostly pretty thrilling. Ash is at one of his absolute best moments in this movie. And the Power of One song itself is gorgeous. I love this movie's score so much. It's so well done, so beautiful. I just feel like it could have done a bit more, and the villain being atrociously bad just really stains it. Again, that's just my thing. I'm one of those people that really tries to find great villains in movies. If you have a great villain in a movie, you have my attention. If your villain is bad, I'm going to call you out on it. It's just the way I am, okay? So please don't take this too seriously. But 2000 is still a pretty good movie. I still think it's worth buying if you can find it. Because if you're trying to find the original VHS tape without paying exorbitant prices for it online, good luck. But it's a pretty good movie. It's a pretty good movie, and I definitely think it's worth giving a look. So, yep, that is number 12, 2000. Alright, we're getting into the pretty good to the really good stuff now. Starting off with the last movie that I had to cut from the top 10 list. Number 11, is Entei and the Spell of the Unknown. Pokemon the Movie 3, the last one that was released in theaters. Or was that Pokemon 4? Something like that. Anyway, this is a very good movie. I love how dark it went. I love how unique it tried to go with having this little girl and having this overarching theme of like fear and death and mourning. Like, I love that kind of morbid stuff. It's one of the reasons why I watch horror movies so much, because I love exploring those kind of concepts. And in this movie, they do a really good job at it. And the visuals are great. Entei's a really cool legendary, not to mention I love the way he ties in with this little girl. That came out wrong, but you know what I mean. Like, it's the soul and presence of her dead father. Like, that's the kind of stuff I love seeing Pokemon do. I love seeing kids' movie stuff like this try to be much darker to bring in a bigger audience. And it does mostly succeed on that. It's just that there's some parts in the second half that are a bit iffy. Like, it's not awful by any means. Like I said, it's still a really good movie. It barely missed the top 10 because of stiff competition, but I don't know. I feel like they could have done more with this, but then I also remember that this was made by 4Kids, so I'm lucky they even got away with any dark stuff at all. So, yeah. And also, the Unknown is just a stupid Pokemon. Like, can we all at least agree on that? It's a dumb Pokemon. It serves its purpose in this movie, and then it has no point afterwards. Like, can we all at least agree on that, please? Thank you. So, yeah. Scatterbrained, I know, but I'm trying to literally recap these movies and remember them fresh in my head after having binged all 24 of these throughout almost an entire month. So, cut me some slack. So, yeah. It barely missed it. I enjoyed Stark Concepts. It is a very good movie. It just missed out because of stiff competition and some things in the second half kind of teetering between being good and just, jumping off a cliff. Stuff like that. But still a very good movie. Definitely check it out. Definitely check it out if you can find it. Okay. Now we're getting into the top 10. These are the movies that I think are the best of this franchise. These are the movies that I think are absolute must-sees, even if you're not a fan of this series. And if you are a fan of the series, these are the ones that are absolutely must-sees if you haven't already seen them. Like, if you're one of the younger kids in my audience watching this video and haven't watched any of these movies, these are the 10 that I can easily recommend to you. So, let's get into it. Starting off with number 10, I'm probably going to get in some hot water for this because people have very middling opinions on this movie, but I personally really liked it. And that movie is Kiram versus the Sword of Justice. This is the movie that directly followed after Black and White, so I had very, very, very bottom barrel expectations. But after seeing it, I was shocked, like how great it was. Yes, Ash and his gang in this movie are entirely pointless once again, which I do not like. And it does kind of follow the formula of having a cool legendary Pokemon being a somewhat villain versus this other Pokemon that's kind of cute and then also kind of OP. Like, the Pokemon formula. But what's also great about this movie is that it also threw a lot of the cliches out of the window. And the writing is a lot stronger here too. And Kiram is an awesome Pokemon. I love his character, I love his design, and I love his story, how he has to learn after being defeated by Kiram, having his horn cut off and trying to find himself, really find out what justice means to him. I love that kind of concept. Not to mention Kiram, awesome Pokemon. I love his design, I love how villainous he is, until the third act when it kind of flips around, but whatever. And this movie really is Kiram's story, and not to mention, like I said in my review, he's voiced by Vic Mignogna. I mean, you throw any Dragon Ball voice actor into any of these movies, you immediately have my attention. And he does really good here. I think he does great as Kiram. Yes, Kiram is not, like, breaking the fourth wall or trying to break new ground or anything. Like, this is a character we've seen done before in other movies, but here in Pokemon, it's very unique because this Pokemon is the focus of the movie and does warrant being the face of the movie. But like I said, Ash in the game being here is kind of pointless. And the whole third act flip around where Kyurem is actually not a villain and just someone that was trying to test. What? Yeah. Trying to test the other guy. Sorry, I'm blanking on names. Like, I really like Keldeo. That's it. Keldeo. Thank you. Keldeo. How Kyurem is just testing Keldeo and not straight up villain, even though he chased him all around the city and started literally trying to freeze everything over. Like that just feels self-contradictory. But I love the ending when Keldeo finally gets his horn and finally gets his sword and finally realizes what justice means to him. And he fully completes his character arc. Like, that's awesome. That is an awesome, awesome ending. Just that one little part bugs me a little bit. And like I said, Ash didn't need to be here. You could have clearly done this movie without having Ash in it. But because it's a Pokemon movie, you gotta throw him in there. And that part just bugs me. Like, why not just have a Pokemon movie about the Pokemon? Not to mention some of these Pokemon talk in normal human voices. Like, you could easily do that, but I guess Nintendo or whoever's making these movies are just blind to that concept. So, yeah, it's just a little thing that bugs me, keeps this movie from being any higher, but it's definitely earned its spot in the top 10. It's very good. Definitely check it out. Where are we at? Number 9. Okay. Here we go. Now, from here on out, it's 8 to 10 territory, guys. Now we're into the legit great Pokemon movies, starting at number 9. Number 9 is Secrets of the Jungle. This is the latest Pokemon movie as of right now. We haven't gotten an announcement of a new one, besides Detective Pikachu 2, but that's kind of in a bit of a development hell, so I don't really count that. But this movie's great. Like, it's not as great as the movie that came before it, which is way higher on this list, but it pretty much cements that this new rebooted era of Pokemon might be, if not as good, maybe even greater than the original era of the series, because the writing is better, the stories are better, the characters are better, and the animation is just crazy good. Not to mention a much more focus on 2D animation and not trying to hammer in crap CGI. Like, thank you. I can't believe it took you this long to figure that out. But yeah, I like that. I love this new character. I love how Ash, a lot like any other movie that's higher up on this list that came before this, is kind of a side character, but he definitely feels very important at the same time, but he's not like taking over the movie, which is very refreshing. And the whole story of this boy trying to figure out where he belongs truly is great. Now, yes, it is just Tarzan again, and you can probably predict every single thing that happens beat for beat, but that's not the point. The point is to just be invested in this character, invested in his journey, and watch where he goes. So, yeah, I already did a full review on this one, I believe, literally yesterday. So, you want my thoughts in shorter form, go watch that video. But all you need to know is that Secrets of the Jungle was great. Netflix did a great job with this one. And it has me excited to see what next comes for the movies, if we get any more of them, since Ash is now out of the series now. So, I don't know. We'll wait and see. I really enjoyed this one, and that's why it's in the top 10 at number 9. Next up at number 8 is the one that kicked off this whole new soft reboot franchise, I Choose You, which is a sort of retelling and sort of reimagining of the first episode of the series, where Ash and Pikachu meet, they don't get along very much, and then slowly over time they develop a relationship, and then Ash saves Pikachu from a bunch of crows, and then you have the Butterfree storyline. Like, you have a lot going on here. And sure, there is a bit of nostalgia in here because this is a retelling of the first episode. I can understand that being a turn off for some people. And again, I cannot get used to Ash's new voice actor. I just can't. It's not awful by any means, but I don't know, it just doesn't really work here. And Pikachu speaks. I'm sorry, but whoever came up with that idea needs to be fired. That was so unnecessary and unneeded. Like, just no. And Ash's human companions in this movie are fine, but they kind of lack character depth. But this movie makes up for it in its gorgeous animation. The way it retells this story is great. And the ending, while being very sappy, is satisfying. And it really does cement Pikachu and Ash's friendship. Like, I love that. And seeing the first episode done again, this new crisp modern animation, just nostalgic and beautiful. There's no other way to put it. But yes, granted, if you're one of those many people of the newer generation that has not grown up with or seen the first episode of Pokemon, this is just going to seem a bit weird to you. Like, hold on, why are we telling this story again? Then this already happened? Like, I can understand that being confusing to most people that are newer viewers and have not watched the original series, which, if you haven't, you need to. It's by far the best one of this entire bunch. Sue me. But this is a great one. Absolutely check this one out if you haven't already. And if you're a Pokemon fan, well, chances are you already have. So, yeah, great way to celebrate Pokemon's 20th anniversary. And it's just an all-around excellent movie. Plain simple. I got nothing more to say. Let's move on. Coming in at number 7, I'm about to get myself into some hot water because a lot of people call this movie terrible, but I disagree, and I think it's one of the stronger movies of this series, and that is Pokemon Forever Celebi Voice of the Forest. Like, why do you guys hate this movie? I don't understand. Celebi's an adorable Pokemon, for one, and an awesome character. 2, Sam is an awesome character as well, and the twist at the end where it actually turns out he's Professor Oak is such a great and clever twist. 3, Ash is at his absolute best here, because it's his original series Ash. 4, the action's pretty good. And 5, Celebi's whole story is just really good and really compelling. Not to mention this movie's atmosphere. Most of the time it's like soft and mellow and laid back, and it's just a really good watch. Now, yes, I can see why some people don't like this movie because of Masked Marauder. Hi, Dan Green. He is a bad villain. I will completely admit that. I do not like the Masked Marauder as a villain, but that's really just a minor complaint. And the other one, yeah, the giant CG random forest monster thingy. Like, yeah, we could have done without that, thank you. But aside from all that, this is a great movie, this is a great watch, and I don't understand why people hated it. I still don't get why people hate it. Seriously, please explain to me why this is a bad movie. And then I'm going to tell you how wrong you are. I love Pokemon Forever. It's been one of my favorites since I first started watching all these movies. And I cannot recommend it highly enough. Seriously, it's a very good movie. You gotta check it out. Just great stuff. Alright, now we're into the best of the best territory. These are the movies that have scored very highly with me. And these are the ones I can easily recommend to anyone and everyone. So, yep, here we go. And this one's probably going to also get me in hot water, but if you saw my review, you saw how surprised I was about how great this one actually is. So this one shouldn't surprise you. Number 6 is Zoroark, Master of Illusions. Like, this one shocked me about how good it was. First of all, one of the best villains of the series. I love Kodai. I love the way he uses media to manipulate people and manipulate views and using all this digital stuff to make people think of something that isn't really there. He's voiced by Sean Schemmel. Yes, he's voiced by friggin' Goku, and most of the time he's doing the voice that he would later implement into Goku Black, which is just nostalgic. And sure, sometimes you can just tell he's doing his Goku voice, but I mean, at the same time, I just think it works for the villain that he is. Not to mention being able to see the future. That is a really cool concept, and I think they did it really well here. And just how over-the-top evil Kodai is just really makes him such an effective, scary villain. Like, I love Kodai in this movie. He's an awesome, awesome villain. that I wish they reused in other movies. He's awesome. I love Kodai. He's easily one of the strongest parts of the movie. Ash is also pretty good here, but I love Zora. Like, this is Shaman done right. Zora can be arrogant, can be cocky, but you still root for him. He's not like an absolutely unlikable little turd like Shaman. Here, he understands that he has to have other people help him, and he doesn't fight that fact. And Zoroark is just awesome. I love this character. I love his design, and sure, it kind of does the cliche final act thing with sacrificing itself. I will completely understand that that's cliche, but I really liked it. Like, I really, really liked it. And then, of course, you have Ash being Ash. You still have Brock. You still have, I think it's Dawn in this movie? Right. It's Ash, Brock, and Dawn. And Dawn's pretty cool. I like how Dawn is kind of like Ash's companion, along with, of course, Pikachu. Like, I could go on and on about this movie. I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. And it's easily one of the best of this franchise. It only misses out on the top 5 because it scored an 8. From here on out, it's getting into the 9 and 10 territory. So, yeah, I really loved Zoroark. It's easily one of my favorites of this franchise. And I definitely recommend you give it a watch. And it is easily the best of the 4 Sinnoh movies. Easily. Because the other, like, one's decent, then the other 2 are crap. Not to mention this one is not completely, it's not connected with the crappy trilogy. It's its own standalone thing. Just saying, that's one of its many, many advantages. So, yeah, I love Zoroark. Definitely give this one a watch if you haven't already. But I can understand that's a bit of a controversial hot take opinion. So, you know what? It is what it is. We all have a different taste. That's the great thing about film, is that we don't all like the same thing. Just how it is. So, let's move on, shall we? Now let's get into the top 5. And 2 of these I actually own. So, let me grab those real quick while my legs fall asleep. There we go. Alright. Let's kick off the top 5 with one I think a lot of people can agree is one of the best of the series. Pokemon Heroes, Latios and Latias. Like, oh man, I love this movie. Like, I love this movie. Like, I love Latios and Latias' characters. I love the whole Venice-like setting. Ash, again, is at his best here. The villains are pretty cool, even though they are a bit generic. But you know what? I will give it a pass. I love the whole concept of the Soul Dew. I love the design of the city. I love the final act. I love how everything plays out. And yes, Latios sacrificing himself. Yeah, that's kind of become a cliche in these movies. I understand that, but I mean, it's to make a new Soul Dew just like just like his dad Latios did before him. So it's like time repeating itself. Yeah, I could go on and on about this movie, man. I loved it. The second I saw this on DVD in a bargain bin at Walmart, I grabbed it because this is one of the most rewatchable in the series to me. If it weren't for some pacing problems and a few cliches, I would have given this a 9. But I gave it an 8.5 in my review, and I'm sticking to it because this is a really great movie, borderline amazing, just not quite there. But definitely extremely rewatchable, and I will defend this movie all day, any day, every day. So, yeah, that's Pokemon Heroes. Love that movie. We'll watch it any time of the week, and we'll always recommend it to people. Moving on to number 4, which I also happen to own, that is another movie that a lot of people call crap that I don't understand. Destiny Deoxys. Why do you guys hate this movie? I don't understand. Like, I thought this movie was really good. It's great. It's excellent. I love this one. I love how we had a character that's afraid of Pokemon. They do a good job explaining it and his whole character arc. I love Ash's character throughout this movie. I think Rayquaza is an awesome character. I think I think the Deoxys itself is an awesome design. I love Plusle and Minus. I love these two. These are like the most adorable Pokemon in all of Pokemon. And it's the introduction to Snorlax, who later becomes a series mainstay. I love the whole city design, and yes, there's some crap CGI in here. Yes, I understand that can annoy some people, but... And not to mention, this movie also has a much bigger cast, and it has a really nice horror vibe to it, with the Deoxys slowly trying to get all of these trainers one by one. Like, that's awesome. And then there's also funny moments all throughout. Like, this movie's very funny, especially because of this guy right here. If I can get the glare to go away. This guy. I think his name is Munch or something like that. Sorry, I forget it. I'm blanking on his name, but it's the pre-evolutionized form Snorlax. And the ending is epic. Like, seriously, I cannot sing the praises of this movie enough. Go watch it, go check it out, buy it on DVD. It's awesome. You are not going to regret it, trust me. Okay, now we're getting into the big boys, the top 3. These are the movies that I can easily say are the best of the series. And one of them was a big surprise, and the other 2 were kind of just expected. So let's go ahead and get this going. Starting off our top 3 at number 3. This might be a little controversial, because you know I'm a huge fan of Mewtwo. But it's going to be Pokemon the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back. Or Mew vs. Mewtwo, as it said on the poster. I love this movie. Like, yes, it has some plot holes. Yes, it has some problems, but it's made up for in its gorgeous, high-budget 2D animation, Mewtwo himself just being an awesome character, how dark they were able to go with Mewtwo, like, is literally murdering people on screen, like, in the first few minutes of the movie. That's the kind of boldness that I can personally respect. And I love the design of the island. I freaking love Mew. It's one of the most adorable, adorable Pokemon I have ever seen. And Ash is at his best here. Like, I love Ash in this movie. I love the whole concept of the clone Pokemon. And the way it just ends off and Mewtwo learning that not all humans are so bad is just beautiful. And then, of course, you have the score. Yes, the plot has a lot of holes. Yes, Team Rocket being here is almost entirely pointless. And yes, Ash sacrificing himself is the start of something that becomes a huge cliche in these movies. I can understand all that criticism. But I don't care. This movie's awesome. And this movie is still great all these years later. Like, it has a devoted fan base for a reason. I don't know what else to say. It's the first movie. It's been talked to death. A lot of people already know this movie's amazing. I got nothing more to say. Awesome movie. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. For some reason or another. Now we're into the top 2. Coming in at number 2 is what is by far the most surprising of all these movies, and the one that surprised me with its high quality and beautiful animation and super sharp writing. The Power of Us. Like, I Choose You was already a great start to this new, soft, rebooted era of Pokemon. And then Power of Us is just a gorgeous middle chapter that takes all the cliches and all the templates you would expect from a Pokemon movie, throws it out the window, gets writers that actually care about the product that they're making. And instead of putting the focus on Ash, they put the focus on what is by far the best side characters in all of these Pokemon movies. All of them having this over-layering theme of fear, like a fear of public speaking or a fear of Pokemon. Yes, I know, it's retreaded from Deoxys, but it's done better here, and once you see the movie, you understand why. Or a fear of trying to fit in, or, you know, it's all about some kind of fear, and even though Ash is the one that gets no development in this movie, he doesn't need it. He's Ash, he's already had his development in other movies, so he doesn't need it. And here, he's a pivotal part because he helps everyone in this movie get over that fear. Not to mention, oh man, I love this character dialogue. It is mature, it is strong, it is smart, and it's powerful. Some things are very powerful in this movie, like you have the uncle that wants to be cool, but then gets told with the help of his Sudowoodo that he doesn't need to be cool all the time. He can be himself. Or you have this older woman that's scared of Pokemon, but when you realize why, because her Pokemon literally died in a forest fire, like, you understand that. It's all understandable, it all makes sense, and all these characters are beautifully fleshed out. And speaking of beautiful, my goodness, the animation. Like, I don't know what happened between this and I Choose You, but there was a huge jump in the animation to the point where it's almost like a Studio Ghibli movie. It has that color, it has that style, it has that sense of quality and maturity to it. Like, it's gorgeous. It's by far the best animation in this franchise. And the writing, even though this movie's not number one, this is the strongest written film of the whole series. Like, it's such a beautiful movie. Not to mention the way that they describe and show how Pokemon helped people. Like, it's beautiful, it's heartwarming, it's emotional. It's gonna get you right here. It's been praised numerously since it came out by numerous fans and critics, and for very good reason. This was by far the most surprising of all of these. I didn't watch reviews until after I saw it. Like, wow. Talk about not judging a book by its cover. The Power of Us is the second best movie in this franchise. Heck, it's number one for some people, and I can entirely understand why. It's just such a gorgeous, emotional, beautiful movie. Not to mention, I love that it actually has good writing for once. That's appreciated. And not to mention, it's one of the other Pokemon movies that has no real villain. It's more of just a story about people and life and trying to get over fear, and the way Ash plays into it and helps all these characters get over fear. Like, it's all just so beautiful. Like, I can't do it justice. You gotta see it yourself. And then you will understand why it's number 2 on this list. But number 1, you guys all knew it. I have favoritism for this Pokemon, and I have favoritism for this movie ever since I saw it. And it has been a measuring stick for the entire franchise ever since I saw it. Number 1 on this list, in my opinion, the best Pokemon movie out of all 24 of these, and probably now one of my all-time favorite movies, period, is Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. I adore this film for numerous reasons. I love the whole medieval setting. I love Sir Aaron as a character. I adore Lucario. He's one of my all-time favorite, if not my all-time favorite Pokemon of all time. And again, voiced by Sean Schemmel, lots of favoritism there. I love the story it tries to tell. I love how Lucario and Ash see Sir Aaron as different people and don't find out until the end what really happened. And I love the way the story's fleshed out. I love how there's no villain. I love how all the characters play a pivotal role in one way or another. Even though I could have done without Max. I'm sorry, I don't like him. I just don't like him. But he barely has any lines in this movie, so he's fine. I love the whole Tree of Life, and I love how it's connected to Mew, and goodness gracious, I could talk all day about how much I love this movie. From its old school animation, to its amazing voice acting, to its beautiful story, its sharp, smart writing, its balance of action and emotion, and just the whole overarching theme of heroism and how people are going to remember you. Like, it hits you on a very deep note, and you're like, oh, come on, it's Pokemon. No way it can do that. It does that. And not to mention, I love the side story with Pikachu, Meowth, and Mew. Like, that whole side story could have been its own movie, but they decided to put it in this movie as a side plot, and it doesn't feel forced. It works really well here, and I'm sure there's the criticism like, oh, Mew caused all these problems, so Mew's horrible. No. No, it's not. Mew may have caused these problems, but that's because, Mew's just trying to have fun. It's trying to find friends. Like, you can't be mad at a Pokemon for that, and you can't be mad at Mew for that either. And the part when Mew is literally dying because the tree is dying, like, that stuff gets you in the heart. And then, yes, Lucario sacrifices himself. That's cliche. I know, but it's done well in this movie. And it makes sense for his character. It's just all around an amazing movie. I could literally talk about this movie all day. And yes, it may not be as sharply or smartly written as Power of Us, but it's just all around better, at least for me. If your opinion's better, if your opinion's different, I can entirely understand that. So, but for me, Lucario and the Mystery of Mew is the best movie in this franchise, and it's going to be a hard one to top whenever they release a new one. So, yeah, love this movie. I will watch it anytime, any day, any year, any week, just any time period. One of my favorite animated movies of all time. I literally have nothing more to say. Alright, that was a giant, large mouthful, but that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Animation Station if you haven't already. And feel free to leave your own rankings and your own thoughts and the opinions down below. In the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. I'd love to hear your opinions. And please don't roast me just because I'm not calling Detective Pikachu great, okay? Please be respectful in the comments. As long as you're respectful, I will respect you. That's just how it is here. And like I've said before, I've built my channel upon honesty. I can never be dishonest with any of you about my opinions. That's just not how I am. And sure, I can understand that sometimes I can be overcritical, or sometimes I can overanalyze things, but you're talking to a guy who literally watches movie critics all the time. Like Sean Chandler, or Austin Burke, Justin watches movies, or, any of those guys. Like, literally, any of those guys. I watch them all the time. And no, they don't, sway my opinion in any way. But it's just fascinating to see how they critique a movie, how they think about it, or how they convey their thoughts about it. Like, it's just fascinating to me. But I can understand why that annoys some people. But no, this is nothing more than my opinion, and you're allowed to enjoy whatever you enjoy. Okay? Just want to make that clear. But this one was pretty fun, even though this month particularly was quite rough because we had to deal with a lot of crap. But overall, I'd say most of these Pokemon movies are average to great. Like, this franchise can be great when it's done well, when it's given the right writing, when it's given the right material to work with, when it's given a good script, when it's given a good story, and then that beautiful animation. Like, when all those elements combine together, you can have something that rivals Dragon Ball Z in quality. So, yeah. Don't say I hate Pokemon, because that's far from the truth. I'm just very casual. Plain and simple. Because I just watch other animes more. But if these movies have shown me anything, it's how quality this franchise can be when it really tries. So, yeah, that's all I got. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I'm Jack Small of Animation Station, no one-stop destination for anything and everything animation. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for my tier list of the Pokemon games. The one thing I have yet to talk about. So, well, aside from the anime. But, yeah, that's going to be all for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Take care.